Hey guys, and welcome back to GT New Horizons. Last time we made a bunch of improvements to our power situation over here by adding an LHE. So the plan for today is to finally be able to get our assembly line. Bad news on that front, the craft that we kicked off last time for the assembly machine casings is actually still going. We are still waiting on circuits crafting, and we have lots more of those things to craft before we can finally finish out this multi-block. So I mentioned at the end of the last episode, we're going to be adding a new processing array. Several processing arrays actually. To make a bunch of processing arrays though, we do need more tungsten steel. We may actually have enough in all fairness, but we're going to be left with not enough, so let's do something about that. So to get tungstate, we could either go back to Mars. However, this time I think we're going to go to one of the moons of Jupiter. Callisto, this is the one we want to visit. So between the episodes I went back to the moon and collected our multi-block miner, which is where it previously was, collecting as bauxite. And I just got done prospecting Callisto. There's actually a second reason why we're here. I want to also pick up some of this Callisto ice, which we're going to need for the next tier of rocket. And it's convenient here that we're next to a tungstate vein as well, along with some monazite, gold, copper and iron. So yeah, we got the usual miner setup here with the drilling fluid being made on site, and everything goes through this ender chest, which then connects up to our base back at the ore processing system over here. Although just a second ago I did just discover a huge issue we have now. Oh, look at this, we lost like the majority of our crops over here. And this is not like mystical agriculture, these things are a pain to make. We basically have to crossbreed every single one. I mean, we do have Breeks to help us out, who is going to help us get them back. But some of these crops that were planted here were essential, absolutely essential for us. Things like the sugar beets and the salty reed, or the salty root, which was giving us chlorine and oxygen. Along with some of the wood bonsais as well, those were also taken out, and we use wood in the pyrolyze ovens down there. So I guess I'll know how I'll be spending my evening then. Oh man, we're gonna have to try to get them back. Alright, we got Breeks bot on the case here. He's going to max out these stats and then put any excess in the storage farm. I do want to make sure this doesn't happen again though, and I think the reason for this, all the weeds to spread, is we had actually run out of power. So we are in the void, it's constantly day here, but this solar panel specifically requires us to manually clean off the top. And yeah, we need to have a water bucket in our inventory to do this. I was maybe looking at upgrading the solar panel to the one that doesn't need cleaned, but this needs Cenarium, and to get Cenarium we need triple compressed glowstone, and we need the QED for this. And the QED, I mean, we can do it, but this is going to cost us like a day already. We're already set back. So instead, I remembered that we actually have some dimensional transceivers. Alright, this should work, right? If we put the transceiver like here. Alright, that seems to have done it. We are giving this thing RF, and I guess we'll just add a separate gearbox on the farm here. And we should absolutely stay full of power now, I think. Alright, several hours later I got the farm fixed here, and I think we're actually better off. If we look on the positive side, right? We actually ended up with more salt root, as I was kind of busy down there preparing the next things for this episode. But I did decide to space these out so that if, for whatever reason, a weed does grow, it's not going to spread to the adjacent crops. And I spread out every single plant that we have here. And currently Breeks is actually working on glowing earth coral. It's actually a new plant that we're going to need in the near future. And we have a little plot over here for this. Oh wait a sec, this seed has resistance on it. Yeah, we want to keep all resistance out of this farm. So while I was fixing the farm, I did go ahead and craft up 5 processing arrays. I think the 5th one should be finished by now. Yeah, it must have just finished crafting right there. And I've also started to plan this out next to our wire mill that we built last episode. So just as a reminder on what we're doing here, all of these processing arrays, we are going to fill with assembling machines. It's basically meant as a replacement for all of these things. Since we still have our assembly machine casings to craft, we currently have 8 of these things out of 15 that we need. Although the extra few casings is still thousands and thousands of SMDs. These things, and all of these share the same circuit number and same fluid. So I don't think it's going to be a bad idea for us to parallelize this craft. And all assembler recipes, really. Oh, I may have miscounted the casings here. Yeah, let's start with 1, at least get 1 operational at a time. So I have already run power up to these things. We're running these at IV. You'd probably dye these cables. Originally I was going to fill the processing arrays with HV assembling machines. But there are quite a number of recipes which do require at least EV tier. And above, there is a few that we use IV. But IV is kind of not really feasible for us right now. We can't make multiple IV machines. And we are going to need an applied energistics connection over here. Probably a fresh P2P tunnel, since we'll have to handle both the fluids and the items inside assembling machines. And if we want to add another P2P, we're going to have to expand this ME controller. And since I don't want to really go all out with the dense cable, since it's going to get changed, it's going to get patched. I'm going to wait for the cheaper recipe. We're just going to do this as we need it. So something like this should... No. We need a cable anchor. Yeah, we don't want this cable to connect right here to the controller. And we want to plug this P2P into the subnet right there. Which means we should be able to link up this P2P. And we can run channels along to each processing array. Alright, so I took some time and hooked up all the I/O for this thing. This actually did take me quite a while, with all this cabling underneath here. And I was trying to decide how we want to split up the fluids as well. I think we're going to have PTFE and rubber share, since rubber is basically only used for the cable. At least I'm hoping there's not going to be any conflicts with this. And then we're going to have one with redstone, solder and alloy, silicon rubber, and polyethylene. So I do have one cell of each. Those have to be filtered in the input hatches. And all the fluids, by the way, are just coming from our fluid P2P network right here. Alright, all of these things are going to need maintenance. And I think the final step is to transfer all the recipes, which are going to go in the interfaces connected to the input buses. Alright, let's just dump our inventory. Oh boy, where do we start with this? Let's start with the polyethylene stuff. Although not all these patterns take polyethylene. Yeah, I think it's going to be easiest just to keep them all together, the way we had them in the single blocks. And because we're going to be having multiple circuits in different input buses, we are going to have to change the processing array to input buses are separated, which means that when we send the items in here, it will respect the circuit that's also in the same input bus. Otherwise, if you have multiple input buses like we do here, we could end up sending items in here and it will read circuit number 1, which obviously will output a different item, not the item we want to craft. And then all the output buses are right here with a conduit just going back to the interface, which will hopefully complete the craft. Alright, now I have to go through and sort out all of these patterns in here. And I think we can do with some optimizations as well. Yeah, we can definitely optimize this further. Alright, all the recipes have been moved over. I really hope we don't have any conflicts with this. Not really an easy way to test it without going through every single recipe, but I was able to optimize things a little bit further and grouped some of the items a bit more efficiently, as well as separating out the ones which are just generic and don't require any fluids or circuits in their recipe. The real test though is how fast can we make an assembling machine casing? Obviously our wires, which we tackled last episode, shouldn't be the bottleneck now, and I'm hoping that the SMDs are no longer going to be the bottleneck. If I was to guess, it's going to move to the wafers, or probably the circuits actually even. Let's find out. I haven't actually run these assemblers yet, so hopefully they actually turn on. Is it doing anything? Well, the wire mill is. Yeah, look at this thing. That is way too loud. I don't know if you can put a muffler on that either. Okay, I'm not seeing any of the assemblers turn on. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's working. Nice. Alright, so at the moment, we only have one EV assembling machine, which really is not ideal, right? I mean, this only means that it does one recipe at once, and this is a very expensive way to set up one EV assembling machine. Since we're only given the processing arrays 1 amp of IV though, it means that we can only put in 4 EV assembling machines. Otherwise it might draw too much power and then we start voiding items because it's a multi-block. So I wonder if we can double it up and at least get 2 in each of these things. We're out of black steel. Alright, let's just batch like 1,000 black steel. We should have been doing this ages ago. We need to increase... We need to think about numbers differently when we're getting to this stage of the game. Yeah, this is going to keep running, but it's going to take a little while. I mean, at least if we add an extra 1 assembly machine to that 1 PA, it means it will effectively double its speed, since it can do 2 recipes at once. So let's at least craft 1 of these things, and just double check where all the rest of the bottlenecks are. It looks like we're actually bottlenecked on circuits. Yeah, the circuit assembling machine could do with a bit of an upgrade. And I heard that you could actually put this thing in a PA as well, which I think we may also do. It's just that the circuit assembling machines, I think, is probably the most expensive machine that we own right now. One thing that we do want to be careful of though is running out of radon. We really don't want to be in a position where we need radon and we don't have it, as this recipe right here is 600 seconds, this LCR which makes us radon. Let's wait till this finishes though, and I think I'm gonna... Oops, don't want to fall in the void. I think I'm going to upgrade this to at least run at EV. And running at EV is going to take how long? Let's see. We're actually waiting on this plutonium smelting again. We should maybe look at getting some more of this stuff. Come on, little basic furnace. Do your thing. I think it needs 9 to start the recipe here. Oh wow, 9 seconds, look at that. From 600 to 9 seconds, that's crazy. This does increase our power draw a little, but we are like half full in our power substation already. We're at 29 billion EU stored. Alright guys, well I have been very busy here. I decided to go ahead and just finish up some of the things that I wanted to get done for the last few episodes. The first little thing is we finally have the automated production of coolant cells for NAC. So we have a mixer here mixing sodium and potassium to give us sodium potassium, funnily enough. And that goes into a quick fluid canner, which then gets sent the fluid cells, and these are used in all the energy hatches. I then used the energy hatches to add 3 more LCRs right here. And also one of these guys, but we're going to come back to that. First of all, these 3 LCRs is for some of the other bottlenecks that we just experienced there with crafting all of those circuits. So this first one handles HPICs. The second one is for nano CPU wafers. And the third one is for the qubits, I believe. Now, we probably could have got away with doing this in one, but I mean, why not? It's going to be faster in the long run anyway. So these two on the right here are just a very basic setup. We just have the pattern going into the input bus, and the fluids going into the input hatch right here. So this takes glowstone, and this one takes our radon. Also, all of these multis are running at IV. Yeah, this is platinum cable. This is all IV energy hatches right here. This one here on the left for HPICs, though, is a slightly different setup here. So this is running this recipe right here, which is at IV, so we actually don't get any overclock. It's just that, I mean, we take it out of the clean room. There's actually nothing in here besides the circuit assemblers, which will be moved soon. Where this clean room is actually almost obsolete for us right now. But yeah, we are running this recipe right here, which takes indium gallium. We have this all made, PICs, we do in our laser engraver, and molten vanadium gallium. Vanadium gallium is not something we have very much of, only 100 ingots here. So I don't really want to dedicate a full fluid extractor for one of these things, even if we were to level them it, since we don't have limited item fillers, so there would still be a full stack buffered in the machine itself. So instead what I've done is included the ingots in the processing pattern. So then back underneath the LCR here, whenever we request this pattern, all the items go in this chest. The vanadium gallium is filtered to go inside the fluid extractor, which then sends its fluid into the input hatch, and all the rest of the items from the chest just go in the input bus. Normally I don't like doing melting on demand, like normally that's a big no-no, but in this case I think it works quite well. And the other thing is this maceration stack right here. This is another one of our GT multiblocks, and it replaces our PA, which used to be here for macerators. So this might be jumping ahead a little bit, or maybe abusive game mechanics, I'm not sure, but bear with me here. If we look at the LuV tab here, which is our next one after IV, all of the normal components like the pistons, the conveyors, the robot arms, etc. Actually, it may just be the motors, but we need something called samarium. Something new in this version of the game is the new processing pattern for samarium. So this is the samarium dust, goes through a sifter. Watch how many steps this is. Okay, so samaric residue dust, chemical react from this thing, chemical react from this thing, blast furnace from this, chemical react from this, centrifuge from the fluid, chemical react again, mixer with nitric acid, centrifuge the dust, chemical react with fluorine, mix with water, blast furnace with oxygen, chemical bath with hydrochloric acid, blast furnace again, sift the fluid, dissolution tank the fluid, mixer again, we're still going, oil crack with steam, and digest with nitric acid, and this comes from bastnasite ore. And I think there's also a chain in here which starts at monazite. Oh yeah. So at some point soon we're going to be having to tackle that whole line. But wait, how did we get 96 dust? Hold on a second, what's going on here? Well, apparently there is a bug in this version where if you process... I forget the item. It's one of these ores we've been getting from tier 3 planets. We should maybe really hook this up to this input system, but I'm not confident enough that we have everything filtered yet, so I've still just been moving things over manually to process them. Yeah, I think it's this thing, rubrasium ore, which comes from Europa. So rubrasium gives us a straight chance at samarium dust, and it skips that whole processing line. However, this is going to get removed in the next patch, I believe. Although you can still get the secondary chance output if you use GT++ machines, which is why I built this thing. So we're absolutely going to cheese this so that we can get some LuV components while we still can. There is still the issue of actually crafting or being able to craft the LuV components. So look what has finished crafting in our system here. We have all 15 assembling machine casings. Oh, and another EV assembling machine. That's going to go in this processing array right here, and that caps off 4 of these things. Still have to craft more for the rest though. But yes, the assembly line. We can finally complete this quest after all of these circuits have crafted. We do need the machine controller though, and this does take an extra 4 assembling machine casings. I'm not sure if that's accounted for in here, but I would rather not overcraft at this point, so I think we'll put 4 back in our system, and we'll request the controller block. Uh-oh. Energetic alloy. Oh yeah, we must be out of boards now. Okay, let's do like 512 energetic alloy. And the energetic alloy should all be sent to the blast furnace automatically. I think it's this one over here. I'm not sure if I actually showed this, but I did get all of these configured and set up with all the coil blocks. Yeah, it's starting to show up right here. So the energetic alloy will all be smelted right here. And that should automatically go to our system. Oh yeah, it's already crafting. Look at that. Perfection. So we only need a few more boards for this. And while we wait on that very last craft, we have to decide a place on where we want this assembly line. We are going to need somewhere which we can deliver a lot of power. Somewhere that we can easily expand, since we'll eventually have more than one of these things. We need somewhere that has an applied energistics connection. Although theoretically that can be anywhere. Anyways, yeah, the options for placement is either right here, actually. We maybe line them up here on each side of this path. That could be pretty cool. And maybe we'll move the clean room out of the way so that we can have them on both sides. Either that, or I was thinking maybe along this side, next to where our distillation towers are. That's also an option since we can easily send power over here. Or we maybe put it in this space right here, since the assembly lines themselves won't emit any pollution, so we don't have to worry about polluting the farm over there. And that will save this space here for other things. What other things is going to be here, I'm not sure. I don't know, I'm just thinking aloud here. Alright, now we can craft it. We got the last, what was it, 2 circuit boards? Yeah, let's craft this thing. And in fact, we're going to see the nano CPUs in action here, this LCR, which now takes 15 seconds, down from 60. Oh, all the multi-blocks are working, this is awesome. Oh, I love it. The assembling line. Wow, what a journey to get here, and this is like the start of mid-game. Alright, so this thing, every time I've built it, I've got it wrong, so... And I believe it is actually different here, so yeah, let's see what this thing is going to entail for us. Oh yeah, this was our old PA with all the macerators. I'm not sure what we're going to reuse this for, but I'm sure we'll find a use for this. Aha, we got the assembly line built here, and I decided to place it here because of the chunk boundary. I was actually warming up to the idea of placing it on this path, but I'd rather not take the chance of crossing the chunks like this. So yeah, like all of the other multi-blocks, we have maintenance to consider, inputs and outputs which we'll want to automate, although it's not as easy as any other machine. There is some special considerations when you're automating this thing. We have also power. For now, we can only manage 2 IV energy hatches. And there's also a data, or optical data something or other. We basically have to provide these things with the recipe itself, which we'll come back to that in a second. First of all, we need to give this thing power. So this is our LuV line coming off the PSS. We need this cable to go this way to our assembly line. Although we are transforming down to EV here for all of the distillation towers, which means we're going to have to move this cable, and we're going to get a bunch of notifications in a second of all the multi-blocks turning off. So yeah, I want to leave this middle of the path available for our highest tier of power, which means I think we're going to run the EV line right around here instead, and we'll cut it right about there. Oh, and this is HV though. Well, that shouldn't be a problem actually. Yeah, we can just place the transformer right here instead. You know, I can't believe I'm not using the automatic snips yet. These wire cutters have seen a lot of action recently. Alright, yeah, remove the transformers here and extend along our LuV power cable. And this way we can transform down, which should power all of these multi-blocks again. And they all did turn off, unfortunately. Oh, this is going to be tedious. Oh, I missed a connection here. I was wondering why they didn't turn back on. Alright, everything should be back online. And plus we saved 50 8x aluminium cable, which is actually kind of crazy how inefficient we had this before, but... Oh, and we're out of vanadium gallium. Oh, we do have some spare in our ME system. We'll also need a transformer from LuV to IV, which does take quite a bit of tungsten. Yeah, look at our Tungstensteel supply now. It's basically all gone. And I don't think we're actually getting much tungstate out of all these things either. I haven't seen a whole lot of it. It is still running though, right? Yeah, we are still getting things through here. Actually, should we send the power in the front here instead? I think it can be any top casing that is the energy hatch. So in theory, we could put the power in the front here. Plus it'll be closer to the power supply. Yeah, I think we will. We'll actually just transform right here and connect the rest with platinum cable. Just 1x since we only have the one right now. We only have the one assembly line. Oh, and all the blast furnaces and things are turning off. We may have to give this thing its own dedicated output from the PSS. I think... Oh yeah. Uh oh. Disaster. Oh no, look at this. Okay, I hope we got everything turned back on in the base. It's really hard to tell with it just giving coordinates and there's like no visual indication at all. So we've got power established to both of these IV energy hatches. Let's see what we actually want to craft with this thing first. I'm not sure what we should prioritize, and it looks like we haven't even unlocked the LuV tab yet. We're missing the rhodium plated palladium, which is a quest in IV here. So to get rhodium plated palladium, we have to mix our palladium and rhodium dust. We can add a processing pattern for this. It's almost about time we look into the multi-block mixers as well. Just out of curiosity though, how much rhodium do we have? 2,000 rhodium dust. And palladium? 1,900. I wonder why we have so much metallic powder dust. Anyways, how much did the quest call for? 64? Oh, I bet this is a blast furnace recipe as well. 139 seconds. Oh man. Okay. Well, once we have that, what is the first thing we want to craft with this? I guess you're really going to hate this in LuV. Nah, I LuV this. I LuV it. Something I don't LuV quite as much though is the fact that we need a lot of yttrium barium cuprate. I forgot this is the point in the game where we're going to need a lot more exotic blast furnace materials. Lots and lots of HSSS. The samarium which we looked at, we have a small backlog which we can use. We are also going to need fine rudite wire. And rudite, we haven't made rudite yet, have we? It's ruthenium and iridium. Wow, 4,500 iridium and 8,000 ruthenium. Okay, I'm so glad I invested so heavily in this system here. This thing has basically been running every episode. Well, it looks like it's turned off now. I don't know why that is exactly. Okay, we're back in business. Alright, I think for the rudite dust, we'll go for like 1,000? Yeah, we should really batchcraft a lot more of this stuff. And same for the rhodium plated palladium. Let's go for like 1,000 of this stuff as well. Oh great, this is even longer. This is 208 seconds through the blast furnace. You know, when you see it all in your inventory like this is going to be like weeks of blast furnace. Or at least it's going to feel like it. Which probably means we should invest in one of those mega EBFs. Yeah, the mega blast furnace. Although apparently that thing puts out like millions and millions of gibble, or pollution. And you can see when we're around our engines here, we can't really see very far. You may have already noticed all this smog. So I'm actually afraid of it reaching the farm if we were to place it like just behind the engines there. I don't know where we're going to place that thing. Maybe even in a different dimension, who knows. Anyway, back to the yttrium barium cuprate, which I think we should actually just stop and invest in because yttrium is a fairly involved process. It also takes barium and copper, but we have both of these things. Well, actually not quite as much barium as I would have hoped for. Only 500, but I think this is easier to get than the yttrium. And I think we may have already just found another use for our PA, which we tore out in replacement for the maceration stack. So we are going to replace all of these electrolyzers since we have the multi-block over in that corner. All of these things are going to go a journey, probably get disassembled. We no longer need any of these things. And this is going to be a perfect spot for yttrium production. Yeah, let's make some space first of all. Oh, this is going to be a lot of fillers to reclaim. Oh, yes. Not that they're that expensive anymore, but, you know, lots of conduits we get back this way. And there are also these fluid tanks here which we were buffering some fluid in, mainly helium actually, which we get from endstone dust, which comes from our farm up on Yellowstone Lily. This is how we're getting the majority of our helium, although this process I've noticed isn't fast enough. since all of these drawers are filling up with endstone dust, which is really not ideal. So we're going to have to make the multi-block centrifuge, which I'm thinking we replace these with. But for now, we'll at least just move over the tank of helium. 7 minutes of debuff. That is ridiculous from all those tanks, but now I think we can make some space here. Alright, we got the PA built here, and eventually we're going to have 3, probably stacked on top of each other. We also have a fluid connection over here, which is going to be used for sulfuric acid inside this input hatch. Oh no, that's chlorine. No, 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 no. As I was saying, in order to get yttrium, we have to go through tiny piles, and this only comes from rare earth. To get rare earth, I think we're mostly getting it from redstone, so crushed redstone ore can give us a byproduct of rare earth. And I think it also comes from things like monazite and bastnasite as well. There's a few others that give rare earth, but we have been accumulating 12,000 rare earth we have here. So the processing array is going to contain chemical baths with rare earth dust. There is also 2 more processes with industrial strength hydrogen chloride and industrial strength hydrofluoric acid. So that is the reason for the extra 2 processing arrays eventually, but since we don't have more tungsten steel, we're going to settle with 1 for now. And we only need the outputs of this rare earth 1, whereas these second recipes give rare earth 2 and rare earth 3. So yeah, we've got an interface in front here. It doesn't actually have to be here, it's just for uniformity, so that it's all the same. So we'll request our rare earth from here. Oh, look at that, it's already turned on. Nice. So I also added this level emitter to only run the machine whenever we're above 10,000 rare earth. But yeah, the reason we have this here is so that we can save some of it for RE2 and 3, which is going to be in the next 2 processing arrays. Eventually we'll just split it up twice, but I don't want to use it all for RE1, which is what I'm now going to call it. So this then comes out of the output bus, and in fact we're going to add another item detector cover and machine controller, just so that it doesn't run if there's things in the output bus. So all we have to do, I think, for this is extract on brown, and this conduit here, right here, is connected to our ore processing line, which keeps things on the subnet, and this is the reason why I put it in here. But with this rare earth 1, we want to, actually, I think we want to just macerate, right? I think we just have to add it to this filter, if I haven't already. Oh, I have added it already, nice. Which means all the rare earth should end up in here and in our new maceration stack. Let's see if that's the case. Let's enable this extract. Yes, we have pollution. That's a good sign. So out of this we get the impure, and which all should be sent to the centrifuge PA. This one here, which it is. Awesome. And this should give us a chance at tiny piles of yttrium dust, which all the tiny piles should end up at this packager and package it into the full dusts. Oh yeah, we can see the tiny piles of yttrium right there going up. Any second now it should be sent to this packager. There we go. There's our first few pieces of yttrium. Although that isn't technically true. So I did make yttrium before, and we needed yttrium in order to get one of those GT multiblocks. I think it was actually for the ore washer over there. So on my little break last week, I did set up this chemical bath to give us some rare earth. Obviously though, we can't have a little setup like this with the chemical bath. And so the impure dust then centrifuges into rare earth dust, which we can then dehydrate for another chance at yttrium. Actually, it's not a chance, it's a 100% chance. We also get a bunch of other random things out of this, which I have no idea how to use yet, but I'm sure they'll come in useful. Or maybe not. Who knows? So now with our yttrium, we should be able to manage the yttrium barium cuprate dust. This is EV. Oh, this needs oxygen as well. We don't have a way to give mixers fluid yet, which probably means it's time for the multi-block. Probably in this space over here somewhere. But that is something I think we save for next episode. Plus we have all this blast furnace stuff to wait on. So yeah, unfortunately, even though we got this built, we weren't able to run it. We're still actually quite a ways off being able to run this thing. I mean, I'm not in any hurry to rush into LuV. There's still some infrastructure I'd like to get in order to create the materials for these components. Oh, and look at this, our PSS is almost full. This should be full by the end of the day, I think. Anyways, I think this is a good point to wrap up the episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon for some more Gregtech New Horizons.